today's webinar, Demystifying the NICE Framework, 5 easy steps used by cybersecurity leaders to simplify hiring and training. My name is Kaylee Allen, and on behalf of everyone at Cloud Range, we're really excited to have you here and see everyone who's joining us today. We have a really great webinar planned for you, hosted by Debbie Gordon, founder and CEO of Cloud Range, and Tom Marsland, VP of Technology and Technical Services at Cloud Range. As founder and CEO of Cloud Range, Debbie Gordon is a globally recognized entrepreneur leading a new category in cybersecurity. Cloud Range was founded on the premise of closing the cybersecurity skills gap by giving security teams the ability to gain real-life experience and practice defending against live cyber attacks in a protected, customized, dynamic environment. A consummate entrepreneur, Debbie began her career in the technical education/certification space and has since built and sold several companies in e-commerce, IT, asset management, and training. Tom Marsland is a cybersecurity professional with over 20 years of experience in the information technology and nuclear power industry. He served over 20 years in the U.S. Navy, has a bachelor's degree in IT security, and graduated in April of 2022 with a master's of science in cybersecurity. This webinar will be 30 minutes long, and a recorded version will be available. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please use the Q&A button on your Zoom toolbar, and we'll answer the questions at the end of the presentation. So without further ado, let me hand this over to Debbie Gordon.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm Tom Marsland, the VP of Technology here at Cloud Range, and I'll be stepping in here this morning to get us started off. The first things we want to talk about.
I think we are. We just got our situation fixed here. Sorry about that. Thanks for jumping in.
Okay, Debbie, over to you.
Can you hear me okay? Okay, thanks. So Tom, if you could share your screen, that would be great. So just a little bit, thanks everyone. Appreciate everyone being here. Sorry about that technical bleep a second ago. So I know we've got people from a lot of different industries, some from higher ed, many different sectors, both on the IT and critical infrastructure area here. So I'm really excited about this because many of you have, over the 5 years that Cloud Range has been around, I've heard from so many people that they know what the NICE, or they know of the NICE framework, but they really don't know what to do with it. They know that it's important. They know that a lot of work has been put into it by NIST and by the committees at NICE, but are not really sure how to implement it. So today, what we're going to do, we're going to just go through some of the elements of the NICE framework, but most important is how it applies to you, because the NICE framework, as Tom will go into, was developed for specific reasons. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. So what's most important is how you adapt it for your use, and we'll give you some simple tools to be able to modify it, customize it, based on the competencies required for your roles in your company. Also, if you can't measure it, it's not worth doing. So how to track improvement and measure success of using the NICE framework and the training that's associated with it. For many of you trying to justify training budget and headcount budget, there's a lot of resources here for that as well, and ultimately generate skill development and learning paths for each of your employees. Again, one of the things I hear all the time is, we know this thing exists, we don't know how to do it, and we don't know what people should learn. So many of you have very talented teams, but you're just not sure what they should know. There's a lot of training out there, there's a lot of content, there's certifications. So what do you do? What guides you? What is that framework? So we're going to be able to provide some insight today. So first, we're going to do a quick poll. So I'm going to launch that here just to get some feedback from everyone. So first one, are you using the NICE framework? Very simply, yes, no, sometimes, and not sure. All right. So I'll give you a few more seconds. Looks like people are putting in their responses. Very good. So over half of you are not using it. 33% of you are using it sometimes, and a mere 11% are not sure. So I appreciate the not sures. There are 0 people on this call using the NICE framework, which tells me that you're here for the right reason. So definitely appreciate that. So a little bit about CloudRange. For those of you we don't know yet, again, we're excited that you're here. So we were founded in 2018, so we're approaching our 5-year anniversary. We are a new category in the cybersecurity readiness space. In fact, the readiness space is very much a category in and of itself. We founded the company because with the growing skill shortage and the growing threat landscape and attack surfaces, there are simply not enough people, not only with enough skills, but with enough experience. And so we knew that we can't wait for people to gain real life experience, that we had to use simulation to do that. And so we launched the company 5 years ago using our cyber range to accelerate people's experience in cybersecurity, and then have since added a lot of different elements of services for training, which are individual lab exercises, tabletop exercises, skills and cognitive assessments. And so there are a lot of different areas that we apply our work to the NICE framework. Everything that CloudRange does is remotely delivered. So in the old days, a cyber range was something that had to exist physically in lots of boxes, lots of hardware. Everything now is cloud-based, virtually accessible from anywhere in the world. So we're really excited about you all being here and how we can help you apply the NICE framework. So also, next slide, please. So CloudRange's customers, and I do see several of you on the call here, we span really any industry. We entered the critical infrastructure and OT space about 1.5 years or almost 2 years ago. But as you can see, we work in the commercial sector, higher ed, state, local government, and critical infrastructure is also an important part, as I've mentioned, and I do see some of you in the critical infrastructure space because IT and OT have some seemingly conflicting goals when it comes to cybersecurity. So as NICE and the committees for NICE are developing critical infrastructure and industrial control systems elements of the framework, we're also developing things potentially at a faster rate to be able to bring to our critical infrastructure customers as well. So I think Tom will touch on that. Next slide. So the skills gap is changing, or is growing. When I founded the company in 2018, I think there were about 2 million documented open jobs. Now it's over 4 million. So again, this problem is not solving itself. We can't wait for people to get on-the-job training. It's not responsible, it's not safe, and we just don't have time. And so everything you're going to learn today is about how to be efficient, the tools you need to use so you can continue to do your job well, because as a security leader, you don't have extra time to figure this stuff out. And I'm sure many of you did not sign up in your role to be a learning and development manager and try to figure out what kind of training your team needs. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Tom Marsland, who has been an integral part of developing a lot of our tools that utilize the NICE framework and how to adapt them for your company. So Tom, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Debbie, and a pleasure to talk to everybody here today. So bottom line, people are only as good as the experience they have, and we have to provide a way to objectively measure their knowledge, skills, and abilities in the job roles they have so that we can measure their performance, measure the cyber risk at the companies, and keep them on a path to growth. Most of the people that already have the skills in the industry already have jobs, so we have to be able to hire people that have the potential and train them into the roles that we need them to fill to reduce our cyber risk and create the so-called unicorns in the cybersecurity industry. People are the greatest asset in your security stack, and using a framework like the NICE framework enables you to grow their skills and provide objective measurements. So today I'm going to talk about that framework. It was created by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, called the NICE workforce framework for cybersecurity. And the government did a pretty decent job of attempting to break down the cybersecurity industry into categories and work roles. They divided it into 7 categories with 32 specialty areas shown on the slide. And from here, we get into 52 different work roles. Every work role is comprised of knowledge, skills, abilities, and tasks. Think of tasks as the things that you see in a job posting, the things that you do on a day-to-day basis. The knowledge, skills, and abilities are the things that you know, or the things that you have to be able to do to accomplish those tasks. There's a database of about 1,200 KSAs, and that's how I'll refer to these as we move forward. As organizations can use the NICE framework to define those work roles and customize those to fit them, and get away from the kind of cookie cutter approach that the NICE framework gives you, but it gives you a great starting point, a great foundation for defining the roles at your company and how you should encourage your employees to learn and train. So again, knowledge, skills, and abilities. Knowledge is gained from things like course content, industry certifications. Skills, think of individual vendor training or development labs where you're learning how to configure firewalls and things like that. But when we talk about abilities, we haven't really had a great way to test those in the cybersecurity industry, particularly in the defensive side, because we haven't employed team-based training and hands-on keyboard skill simulation. And so using things like a cyber range, a virtualized network where a team can come in, practice incident response, using full-scale simulated live attacks, digital forensic simulations, malware reverse engineering as a group, and team-focused collaboration are ways that we can measure and help people gain those abilities that they need to do those roles. One example shown here is the cyber defense analyst, and this is taken right from the NICE framework. It outlines 91 specific KSAs, including 6 abilities, 70 areas of knowledge, and 15 skills, and then 34 tasks. And it shows capability indicators on how you can measure if the person that's in that role is performing and has all those KSAs. So again, if you're in the government, if you're the Department of Defense and you're using these work roles, great. If you're on USA Jobs and you see these flat cookie cutter roles, fantastic. But in the private sector, a lot of people just don't understand how to use the NICE framework yet. And that's what we're working to break down here today. So 5 easy steps that we can work on to simplify hiring and training. And please, again, if you have any questions as we go, use the Q&A button and Kaylee will bring those up here at the end. So the first thing, refine those job descriptions. Ensure that description accurately reflects the work the person will be doing and hire for the skills that are actually needed. So this is going to require a little research on the front end. The person that is filling the role of hiring manager, look at the NICE framework, look at the 52 work roles and see which one most closely fits the job you're hiring for, and look at those KSAs. Take those KSAs, and if they're relevant to the job, keep them and use them for the job listing. If they're not, take them out. Each KSA provides a capability indicator so that you can measure and outline the performance that's going to be needed in the role. Step 2, again, as we just discussed, identifying the appropriate KSAs for the role. Say you're hiring for a SOC analyst. And so you go to the NICE framework and you find cyber defense incident responder as the closest fit cookie cutter work role. Well, there might be a lot of KSAs there that are related to cloud, and maybe you're not working in a cloud environment yet. So you can remove those KSAs and custom fit that work role from the NICE framework for your company. At that point, you have a list of the skills that the person that you're looking to hire has to be able to fulfill. And in this case, you can use tools to help. The Cloud Range Performance Portal is specifically mapped with all of our content to the NICE framework and to all of those 52 work roles. And in my role as VP of Technology, I work with those customers to help map out those work roles, define those KSAs, and customize those for the customer in our portal. Step 3 is to look at your team as a whole. Gather the competencies of those teams. There are multiple ways that people can have gained those KSAs. It doesn't just have to be taking content once you've hired them. It can be certifications that are already mapped to the framework, prior training or education. And you can look at the courses they've taken yourself as a hiring manager and look at the NICE framework and see which KSAs they may already have. There's also role-based assessments, candidate tools that we use in the hiring process, like our fast track candidate assessment, which places people in a one-on-one simulation in our cyber range to test their knowledge, skills, and abilities against the work role the customer's hiring towards. And finally, again, using tools. On the NICE framework, there's a NICE Framework Explorer that will help break down these KSAs. And in the Cloud Range Performance Portal, we have something very similar. Now that the hiring's complete and you have somebody on board, the training doesn't stop, especially in the cybersecurity industry, where the skills gap just continues to grow as technology changes and evolves. So at this point, generating and implementing training plans using that framework that you hired for. You have a list of KSAs, devise a method to measure your employees' performance against the KSAs, find the gaps, and generate customized learning paths. The missing KSAs will tell you exactly what that person should be learning. Provide them time in their job to do training and to close that gap. Because when you look across a team, those gaps in KSAs represent a gap in competency. That directly translates to risk at your company. If you have 10 SOC analysts and all of them are missing KSAs associated with ransomware, then what's going to happen when your company is the victim of a ransomware attack and your team hasn't practiced how to fight against it? And ensure the implementation of these training plans. As a manager, it's your job to help your team grow and use those training plans to help them skill up as they move forward in their career. Finally, like we've talked about here in the beginning, without being able to objectively measure progress, it's almost not worth doing. So ensure the plans are being executed. Use a platform like our performance portal where you can monitor individual and team-based progress. And as you move forward, you're going to identify more skills that your team needs, more knowledge factors that they have to grow. And so be willing to constantly refine and modify those plans and work towards small, steady, continuous improvement to foster and retain that skilled workforce at your company. With positive training outcomes comes greater retention. And with greater retention comes reduced risk for your company. By doing things like that, by doing continuous improvement training, you'll see that your gap is closed on the NICE Workforce Framework, which means cyber risk is brought down for your company and you're performing better and your job gets easier as a whole. So with that, I would like to open the floor and I'll let Kaylee jump in as well and see if we have any questions that we can help the team answer.
Thank you so much, Tom. Yeah, I do have a few questions here. The first one that's coming through is, how can the NICE framework be applied to sectors or industries with unique cybersecurity requirements, such as healthcare or financial services?
Thank you so much, Kaylee. The NICE framework is a very common ground. So one example, the first competency in the knowledge section, K001, is knowledge of computer networking. That competency is applicable across every industry in cybersecurity. So the NICE framework really was written to fit all sectors of computing, IT, and cyber, and it can be applicable there directly to any of those industries.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Tom. And then how often should organizations reassess their alignment with the NICE framework?
That's a great question. I recommend quarterly looking at your team and looking at the gaps in competencies and being willing to refine those training plans. Another thing that you might recognize by doing this is when the amount of skills that you're adding to your team puts enough load on them that you identify that you need to hire another person. And the NICE framework can be used for that method as well, to identify that, hey, we've added so many things to this training plan for this person. You know, their job role started with 80 KSAs and now they're at 120 because of things we've required them to learn and be able to do, that we just need to go out and hire another person at this point.
And one thing I'll add on the previous question in terms of sectors, there's also specific things that in your organization may be organization specific, such as tools you're using, what to do with those tools, how the tools interoperate. So you're able to create custom KSAs and create, Tom had alluded to being able to create a custom job role. So it's important that you're not just focusing on the KSAs that exist out of the NICE framework, but what are some of the unique things about how, with the tool sets you're using, how you're organized, and other things that make your roles very unique that you want to make sure you're measuring against. And those can all go into this framework. So the NICE framework is really just a basis for it. And then it's all the customization is what makes this really unique to your own organization and your own team. And then there was a question about the NICE framework being associated with SANS. No, NICE was created under NIST. And Tom, I don't know if you have any more. You can talk about how that all came to be.
Really, just the National Institute for Standards and Technology is charged with standards and technology across a myriad of different areas. And one of those that they looked into was for the government, and specifically for the Department of Defense. The DoD has an instruction called the 8570, which defines certifications that people have to get to fulfill different roles, like information assurance managers and developers and technicians in the Department of Defense. And so they built the NICE framework as a way to expand that from the DoD across all government sectors. And we see a lot of applicability as a foundational tool that you can build upon here to define your work roles in the private sector as well.
Yeah, and I want to elaborate on Creosa's question about is the NICE framework connected to the SANS Institute offensive security training with regards to KSAs. So I actually think what you're asking is, are they mapping to the same KSAs of the NICE framework? The answer is very possibly, but that's kind of the reverse mapping. So what their training maps to the framework, to those KSAs, and we do that too with our content. But the most important part of this is being able to customize and create what those KSAs are for your company. So in a job role, a work role that is outlined by the NICE framework, that's not, like Tom said, it's not exactly what's going to be in your company. So what do you want to, what KSAs are really important? What do you want to remove that might not apply? And what do you want to add that are really important? Those don't have to exist yet. You can actually create those and map content to those. So everything that you're doing in terms of tracking is your own. The framework gives a foundation, so you're not starting from scratch, but we've never seen anyone whose work roles map exactly to that. So with offensive security, or OffSec as they're called now, and SANS, if you consume content from them, they'll say these are the KSAs that you mapped to. However, it doesn't say your role as a pen tester at XYZ company requires all these KSAs, which may or may not be part of what's in the NICE framework.
Great. Thank you so much, Debbie and Tom, for that.
Yeah.
And I think we have time for one or two more questions. We'll see here. But tell me more about how I can generate training plans through your system. Are they only based on your training?
Yeah, great question. So the CloudRange Performance Portal enables us to bring in any content from outside providers. If a trainee is in the Performance Portal and they have earned a certification like the CompTIA Security Plus, they can request a review of that content and upload that proof of completion of training. And their manager can approve the granting of KSAs directly in our portal that map directly to what they've completed. And so as more organizations map their content to the NICE framework and to the KSAs, we build this ecosystem of this mapped content where we can really work on helping companies define these job roles and then defining risk based on that gap in knowledge, skills, and abilities, and helping the entire industry improve their cybersecurity posture.
Great. I think we have time for one more. Debbie, did you have something you wanted to add?
Well, I just wanted to share with everyone, this is very much of a kind of a broad overview of what this all is. As I mentioned earlier, it's a very nebulous concept to a lot of people. So we weren't going to go into an actual product demo today, but when if forever anyone who would like a demo of the performance portal, which is where you customize your work roles, where you generate learning plans, we can talk with you about what your roles are and how that would look in your organization. So just get in touch with us, and our the email address is on this slide that's visible now. And we also have a right track cyber aptitude assessment too, if you all are interested. So again, some of this stuff is conceptual. We'd love to show the opportunity to show it to you real time in a demonstration and just talk specifically about things in your organization. So I wanted to throw that in before our time is up. So Kaylee, if we do have another question, we can definitely take it.
Yeah, thank you. We'll just do one more quick question here. How does the NICE framework account for the variation in cybersecurity responsibilities across the different levels of seniority within a role?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Kaylee. So some of that is accounted for directly in the different 52 work roles. So as you go through those work roles, you'll see more senior titles, like executive cyber leader as one of those roles. But the best way to account for those when you look at, say, a SOC analyst as entry level to a more senior position is how you customize the framework to fit your needs. So identifying all those KSAs when you're hiring a cyber defense incident responder and removing the ones that you wouldn't expect a junior person coming into your company to know, and then adding to those as they grow. And that's where, again, it's important to understand the NICE framework and how you can customize it to fit your needs. And accounting for seniority is one of those ways.
Great. Thank you so much, Tom and Debbie, for leading a really great session today. And thanks so much for everyone who attended. You will be receiving an email with the recording of the webinar. And yeah, thank you again, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. And look forward to talking with you all further about this. Thanks, Tom. Great job.
Thank you, everybody.